My name is Shirley Winslow, and I'm 27 years old. If you'd asked me 6 months ago what kind of person I was, I would have said loyal, reliable, and maybe a little too forgiving. At least that's what everyone told me. Back then, I thought love meant giving without keeping score. I thought if you cared for someone enough, you carried them through the rough patches until they could stand on their own. That was before Mason. Mason was 25, and for almost 3 years, he had been my entire world. He was handsome in that boyish, Instagram-ready way, the kind of guy who never left the house without perfectly styled hair and a curated outfit, even if he was just going to buy milk. He called himself a content creator, though I knew deep down it was just another way of saying unemployed. He had about 3,000 followers, mostly college friends, and random strangers who liked his gym selfies. But Mason believed he was destined to be big. And because I loved him, I believed it too, or at least pretended I did. So I covered for him. His credit cards, his phone bill, his car insurance, even the Spotify account, and the gym membership he swore he needed for networking. About $1,800 a month, not including dinners, little gifts, and the random Venmo transfers when he was short on rent. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself he just needed a little more time to break through. But then came the text. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was at my desk at work, buried in spreadsheets, when my phone lit up with Mason's name. I smiled instinctively, expecting his usual love you or some meme. Instead, the message froze me in place. Hey babe, so Jage's roommate just moved out. She offered me the spare room for super cheap. I think I need this. Time to focus on my content without distractions. Don't contact me for a month, okay? I need space to figure things out. We're still together. Love you. I stared at those words until the lines blurred. He was moving in with Jade, his platonic best friend from college, the same Jade who commented fire emojis on all his posts and called him Macy, in a way that always made my stomach twist. And he wanted space from me, the woman paying his bills while moving in with her. For 5 whole minutes I didn't move. My chest burned, my palms went cold. The office chatter around me faded into white noise. I reread the message over and over, searching for some hidden punchline, but there wasn't one. Finally, my fingers moved. I typed back 2 words. Got it. No questions, no begging, just 2 syllables that said more than Mason could ever understand. But as soon as I hit send, something inside me snapped awake. I thought about the months of late-night Venmo requests, the endless justifications, the way he always framed my support as our dream. And suddenly, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt angry. Angry that I'd been the one keeping him afloat while he practiced poses in front of ring lights. Angry that he dared to call me a distraction while running off to play house with Jade. If Mason wanted space, he'd get it. That night I went to work, not the kind that Mason filmed and hashtagged, but real work. The kind that required discipline and a spine. First, I logged into my credit card apps. Both accounts where Mason was an authorized user gone. Canceled. He'd been maxing them out anyway, $7,000 on one, $5,000 on the other. I'd been making minimum payments like an idiot believing in his future income. No more. Next, I called my phone provider. His line was removed from my plan, effective immediately. If Jade was so great, maybe she could add him to hers. Car insurance removed. He could explain that one to the DMV. Gym membership canceled. Spotify deleted. Streaming services, passwords, changed profiles, wiped clean. Even Amazon Prime, which he'd been using for business purchases that turned out to be neon sneakers and overpriced skincare, gone. It took me less than an hour to unravel the safety net I'd spent years weaving around him. And then, with a strange calmness, I blocked his number. Mason wanted a month without contact. Perfect. Timer starts now. I should have felt guilty. That's what the old Shirley would have felt, guilt for being too harsh, for not cushioning the fall. But instead I felt lighter. My apartment was quiet, my phone blissfully still. For the first time in months, maybe years, I could hear myself think. But peace doesn't last when you've been someone's crutch. Exactly 72 hours later, the silence shattered. My phone lit up with numbers I didn't recognize, each leaving voicemails like little bombs waiting to explode. The first was from Brian Mason's loud-mouthed friend, Shirley. What the hell did you do? Mason's cards aren't working. He's freaking out. This is so petty. Call him back. The second was Donna, his mother, her voice sweet but sharp-edged. Hi, Shirley. It's Donna. There seems to be some confusion with Mason's accounts. He said there must be a technical issue with the cards. Could you please sort this out? He's very upset. And then came the third. Mason himself, his voice strained, embarrassed. Borrowed from Jade's phone. What the hell, Shirley? My card got declined at Target in front of everyone. How could you do this to me? This is financial abuse. Fix this right now. Financial abuse. The words hit me like ice water. Was that really what he thought? Or was it just what he wanted me to believe? I almost laughed. Me, abusive for refusing to pay for a man who had just moved in with another woman. But I didn't respond. Not to him, not to Donna, not to anyone. Mason wanted silence. He wanted independence. He wanted to focus on himself without distractions. So I gave him exactly what he asked for. The best voicemail came later that evening. Mason again, but this time his voice cracked tears, slipping through the bravado, "Shirley, please." My car insurance lapsed, and I got pulled over. The cop gave me a ticket. It's $450 I don't have. And Jade, she saw my card get declined at Walmart when I was trying to buy groceries. I had to pretend I grabbed the wrong card. Please just turn them back on. I'll pay you back. I promise. This is humiliating. Humiliating. I pressed play again just to hear him say it. Humiliating. That was the word. Maybe he'd finally felt for just a moment what I'd been feeling for years, standing at the checkout line of a relationship that only ever overdrafted my soul. I closed my eyes and let the silence return. Mason wanted space. Well, space has a way of echoing, and soon he was about to hear his own voice bounce back at him louder than ever. And that was only the beginning. The first 72 hours had been deliciously quiet. I almost convinced myself Mason might take the hint, swallow his pride, and finally start pulling his own weight. But people like Mason don't do that. People like him find new hands to dig their claws into when the old ones let go. By the fourth day, the silence was over. My phone turned into a weapon against me, buzzing with unfamiliar numbers, each one leaving me a gift-wrapped guilt trip in voicemail form. Brian again. Shirley, come on. You're better than this. Mason's just going through stuff and you're... What? Cutting him off like he's nothing. Don't be vindictive. Don't be... Donna again. Shirley, honey, Mason is devastated. He said you've frozen his accounts. Please just help him through this. A mother knows her son and he's struggling. You wouldn't abandon him, would you? And then Mason. Always Mason. His voice was different each time, angry, demanding, then pleading. But the thread was always the same. He was entitled to my support. The one that stuck with me was left at 2 a.m., his voice low, probably recorded from Jade's kitchen. Shirley, I get it, you're hurt. But this is punishment. You've destroyed my credit. Do you understand that I can't even pay for gas? You're ruining me. Please just undo it. I'll make it up to you, I swear. Ruining him. The irony almost made me laugh. Mason hadn't realized I wasn't ruining him. I was just letting him ruin himself, finally, without my help. Still, the messages kept coming. Each one was a little less composed, a little more desperate. I ignored them all. But ignoring Mason never meant he'd go away. 2 weeks after his grand announcement that he needed space, I opened my door one Saturday morning to find him standing on my doorstep, and he hadn't come alone. Jade stood beside him. She looked uncomfortable, her long auburn hair tied back in a messy bun, oversized hoodie swallowing her frame. She held her phone like a lifeline, thumbs twitching nervously across the screen. Mason, on the other hand, looked like he'd been dragged out of bed, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight, wearing sweats that probably weren't washed. Shirley, Mason said like he owned my name. We need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You asked for a month of no contact. It's been 2 weeks. You lost track of time, or just decided rules don't apply to you. His jaw flexed. Cut the crap. You know what you did. I know I stopped paying for your life. If that's what you mean, then yeah, I know exactly what I did. Jade stepped forward, voice soft but trying to sound firm. Shirley, look, this is kind of messed up. He was counting on those cards. You can't just pull the rug out from under him like that. I turned to her, my voice calm, sharp. Are you serious? He moved in with you, Jade, while we were still together, and you expect me to keep funding his lifestyle. Do you pay for your roommate's spa days and protein shakes too, or is Mason just special? Her cheeks flushed and she looked down at her sneakers. Mason bristled. This isn't about her, Shirley. It's about you being vindictive. You destroyed my credit. I have a brand meeting tomorrow and I can't even get my nails done. I cut him off with a short laugh. Your nails. Mason, you're worried about your nails while you can't afford groceries. That's rich. His face darkened. Don't mock me. You've been controlling me for years with money. Now you're punishing me. That's abuse. I felt the words sting, but only for a second. Then I smiled, slow and deliberate. Sue me then. Go on. Take me to court. I've got 2 years of receipts showing thousands at Sephora Fashion, Nova, Starbucks, all while you preach to your followers about being a self-made boss. I'll happily let a judge decide who was using who. Jade's head snapped up at that, her brow furrowing. Wait. Mason, you said Shirley was controlling, that she barely gave you enough to scrape by. He shot her a look so sharp it could cut glass. Jade, not now. But the damage was done. Her doubt flickered, and I saw it, the tiny crack in their so-called friendship. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. Tell me, Jade, does he pay rent on time, or are you covering that too, while he eats your groceries and sleeps till noon? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I turned back to Mason. You wanted space, Mason. You wanted to focus on yourself. Well, congratulations. You've got all the space in the world and nothing to fill it with. Now please get off my doorstep. Mason's voice cracked, anger giving way to panic. You don't understand, Shirley. I have responsibilities. Minimum payments alone are $400. I can't survive like this. I met his eyes cold as steel. Then get a job. Content creation is my job. 3,000 followers aren't paying your bills, I said flatly. I was, and I'm not anymore. I started to close the door, but his voice rose desperate. I'll tell everyone what you did. I'll ruin your reputation. People will see you for who you really are. I smiled faintly, hand tightening on the door. Please do. Make sure to mention how you moved in with another woman while expecting me to keep footing your bills. That'll get you plenty of sympathy likes. And then I shut the door. Through the wood, I could hear him sputtering, raising his voice, Jade trying to quiet him down. The faint sound of footsteps retreating. I leaned against the door for a long moment, breathing deeply. My chest trembled, not from fear, but from the release of a weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying. For once, Mason had nothing left to take from me. But I also knew him too well. Mason was like a fire. You could douse it, smother it, bury it in ash. But unless you crushed every ember, it always found a way to spark back up. And I had no illusions. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Mason always fancied himself a master storyteller. He thought the right filter, the right caption, the right spin could make anyone believe whatever version of reality he wanted them to see. So when I shut the door in his face, it was only a matter of time before he took our breakup public. The video appeared 2 days later on his TikTok feed. The title, When Love Turns Toxic, My Story. He sat in Jade's living room ring light, positioned just so, hairstyled to perfection, despite the bags under his eyes. His voice was deliberately soft-wounded. I just want to talk about something important, he began, sighing dramatically. Financial abuse. You never really notice it until you're living it, until someone controls your entire life with money and then rips it away to punish you. That's what happened to me. I couldn't help but watch, half fascinated, half disgusted. He painted himself as a victim, claiming he'd been trapped in a relationship where he wasn't allowed to breathe without my financial permission. He never once mentioned Jade by name, but the implication was clear. Poor Mason, abandoned and destitute, betrayed by the woman who should have loved him. The comments started rolling in. At first, they were sympathetic. Stay strong, King. You don't deserve that. Financial abuse is real. Sending love. But the internet has a short fuse for hypocrisy. It only took one sharp-eyed follower to unravel the facade. Wait, weren't you flexing a brand new iPad last month? Pretty sure she bought that. Girl, you moved in with another woman and still wanted her money. This ain't abuse, this is freeloading. Bro, you sound like a parasite. Delete this. Within hours, the tide had turned. His video was flooded with mocking comments. Someone even stitched it with a screenshot of Mason's independent boss posts, pointing out the contradictions. The phrase, not the self-made king begging for credit cards, trended in his tiny corner of TikTok for an afternoon. By midnight, the video was gone, deleted. But damage lingers, especially when it's self-inflicted. The next evening, I got a DM, not from Mason, but from Jade. Shirley, I need to ask you something. Did you really pay for all his stuff, like everything? For a moment, I debated ignoring her. After all, Jade had chosen to take Mason in to play roommate/best friend in this little charade. But curiosity got the better of me. Yes, I typed back. Everything. Cards, insurance, phone, groceries. For almost 2 years. Her reply came instantly, like she'd been waiting by the screen. He told me you only gave him scraps. That you kept him dependent, wouldn't let him work, wouldn't let him breathe. He said you cut him off just to destroy him. I stared at the words, heat building behind my eyes. I could almost hear Mason feeding her those lines, the same ones he'd whispered to me years ago about his ex before me. The recycling of lies. The pattern repeating. I typed slower this time, steady. Check his receipts. Ask yourself who really benefited. Then decide if you want to keep carrying him. Jade didn't answer for hours. When she finally did, it wasn't with words, but with screenshots, photos of grocery lists, overdue bills, Uber receipts. All of them sent from Mason to her, each captioned with some variation of, "Can you spot me? I'll pay you back." She added one line, "He owes me $900 already, and it's only been 3 weeks." I could almost feel her shame bleeding through the screen. I wrote back, "You wanted him? Now you've got him. Good luck." I didn't mean it cruelly well, maybe a little, but mostly it was resignation. Jade had stepped into my old role without even realizing it. She thought she was saving him, when really she was just the next bank account in line. That night, as I sat on my couch with a glass of wine, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not just anger, not just vindication. Relief. Relief that for once, someone else was getting the front row seat to Mason's unraveling. Relief that I wasn't the only one who saw through his charm. But also beneath that relief, a quiet unease. Because if Mason was already draining Jade dry after only 3 weeks, how long would it take before he came clawing back to me with new tricks, new lies? I swirled the wine in my glass and stared at the ceiling, remembering the voicemail where he called me abusive, remembering the way Jade's eyes flickered with doubt on my doorstep. Mason's world was beginning to collapse. The safety nets were snapping one by one. And when someone like Mason starts to fall, they don't fall quietly. They grab at anyone within reach, dragging them down too. I knew it was only a matter of time before he tried again. And I needed to be ready. It was a Thursday evening when my phone lit up with a familiar name, Donna Winslow, Mason's mom. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Our conversations had never gone well. Donna had always treated me like some placeholder in her son's life, nice enough, but not permanent. She believed Mason was destined for greatness, and anyone who questioned that was an enemy. But something in me was curious, so I answered. Surely Donna's voice cracked softer than I'd ever heard it. "Honey, I owe you an apology." The words nearly made me drop the phone. An apology from Donna. I just found out the truth. She went on quickly, as if afraid she'd lose her nerve. "Mason told us for years that he was making money online, that you were just contributing here and there while he built his career. But tonight I saw the statements. I saw what you've been covering. Surely you've been paying for almost everything, haven't you?" I exhaled slow and steady. Yes, for almost 2 years. There was silence on the other end, broken only by the sound of her shaky breath. "Oh God." Her voice cracked. I had no idea. He made us believe. He made me believe he was independent, that he was paying his own way. I even bragged to my friends about how proud I was of him. All lies. I didn't know what to say. A part of me wanted to scream. Of course he lied. That's what he does. But another part, an older, softer part, felt almost sorry for her. Because Mason hadn't just conned me. He'd conned his own mother, too. Donna's voice dropped. "Do you know how much debt he's in, Shirley?" I hesitated. "I know about the cards in my name. 12,000. Why?" She gave a humorless laugh. "That's only part of it. He's been juggling payments, moving money around, making minimums with borrowed cash. Tonight his bank called me about suspicious transfers. Turns out he's been paying card A with card B and card B with card A. It's a miracle it didn't collapse sooner." My stomach tightened. "That's fraud." "I know," she whispered. "And if the banks decide to investigate, he could be in serious trouble." I confronted him, and do you know what he said? He said it was your fault, that you abandoned him, that you pushed him to this. But Shirley, she paused, her voice trembling, "I don't believe him anymore." Her words landed like a strange kind of justice. For so long, I'd been the villain in Mason's narrative. To hear Donna break free of his web, it felt like the world was tilting back into balance. "I'm cutting him off," Donna said firmly, a steel edge in her tone now. "No more bailouts. If he wants to eat, he can work. If he wants a roof, he can pay. I won't enable him another second." I closed my eyes, relief washing through me like a tide. "That's the smartest thing you can do." There was another silence, heavier this time. Then Donna said softly, "Shirley, for what it's worth, you're a good woman. You didn't deserve this, and I'm sorry I ever made you feel otherwise." I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear that until the tears came hot and sudden. For 2 years, I'd carried the weight of Mason's lies, and finally, I wasn't carrying them alone. After we hung up, I sat on the couch, staring into the dim light of my apartment. The silence felt different now. Not empty, not lonely, just clean. But peace, I was learning, was always temporary where Mason was concerned. The very next day, I came home to find an envelope taped to my door. My name scrawled in Mason's handwriting, messy and desperate. Inside a note, "Shirley, you've ruined my life. My credit's destroyed. Jade is kicking me out. Mom won't help. I don't know where else to go. Please. I know I messed up. I just need a little more time, a little more support. Don't leave me like this." The old Shirley would have folded. She would have seen the cracks in his armor, the little boy desperation, and rushed to fix it. But I wasn't the old Shirley anymore. I tore the letter in half, dropped it in the trash, and locked my door. Because Mason's life wasn't ruined by me. It was ruined by Mason. And deep down I knew this was only the beginning of his freefall. It started with texts. New numbers, burner apps, random emails with subject lines like "please" and "you don't understand." At first I deleted them without reading. But curiosity got the better of me. "Shirley, I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't live like this. You have to help me. Shirley. Do you want me to end up on the street? Is that what you want? Shirley, I love you. Don't let me drown." Love. That word, once warm, now felt like a weapon. When the messages didn't work, he escalated. One Tuesday afternoon, as I was returning from lunch, the receptionist at my office stopped me. Her face was pale lips pressed into a tight line. "There's someone waiting for you in the lobby." My stomach sank. I didn't need to ask who. I stepped into the marble-floored lobby, and there he was. Mason crumpled on one of the leather chairs, eyes bloodshot, hair wild. His clothes hung off him like he'd been wearing the same outfit for days. The moment he saw me, he leapt to his feet. "Shirley." His voice echoed through the open space. People turned their heads. My coworkers slowed their pace, pretending not to watch. "Mason," I said evenly, "you can't be here." He ignored me, his voice rising, desperate. "You blocked me everywhere. What was I supposed to do? I had to see you. I had to explain." "There's nothing left to explain." "Yes, there is." His voice cracked, and he dropped his hands to his sides like a petulant child. "You abandoned me. You ruined my life. I don't have money. I don't have credit. I don't even have a place to stay. Jade wants me out. Mom won't let me come home unless I get a job. You destroyed everything." Every word rang louder than the last. I felt the stares drilling into me from the mezzanine above, from behind the reception desk. I lowered my voice firm. "You need to leave. Now." "I can't." His eyes glistened, and for a terrifying second I thought he might actually fall to his knees. "I don't know where else to go. Please, Shirley. Please." Security appeared, then 2 men in navy uniforms stepping forward with calm authority. "Sir, you'll have to come with us," one said. Mason flinched, panic in his eyes. "No, I just need to talk to her. Just 5 minutes, please." "Sir," the guard repeated, firmer this time. "Let's go." They each took an arm, guiding him toward the exit. He twisted, shouting over his shoulder as the glass doors opened. "I just want my stuff back." I didn't answer. Because Mason had no stuff here. He'd never lived with me. He'd never contributed to anything worth claiming. The doors shut behind him, and the silence that followed was worse than the shouting. My coworkers whispered from behind their hands, their eyes darting between me and the door. By the time I made it back to my desk, my boss was waiting. He closed the door to his office, gesturing for me to sit. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. "I'm fine," I lied. He leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "If this continues, you might need to consider a restraining order. We can provide documentation, security footage, witness statements. Don't wait until it gets dangerous." I nodded, throat tight. The thought of filing one made me nauseous, but the thought of Mason showing up again was worse. That night, my phone had 63 missed calls. The voicemails were a symphony of unraveling. "You've ruined my life. Jade says I have to leave. Do you even care what happens to me? My credit score is destroyed. I can't even rent a car. You're a narcissist. I'll call your mom. She'll make you talk to me." And then she did. My mother rang me, laughter bubbling through her words. "Shirley, you'll never believe this. Mason just called me crying about credit cards. He begged me to talk some sense into you." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "I'm sorry, Mom." "Don't be," she chuckled. "I told him to apply at McDonald's. They're always hiring." Despite myself, I laughed too. It felt good, the kind of laugh that pushes the heaviness back for a moment. Mom continued, amused. "He called me a bitter old witch and hung up. Honestly, that was the most entertainment I've had all week." I hung up smiling, but the relief didn't last long. Because while Mason's meltdown was humiliating for him, it was exhausting for me. Each public scene, each voicemail chipped at the calm I'd built. And Jade, she wasn't handling it much better. A few days later, I got another DM from her. No screenshots this time, just a single panicked sentence. Shirley, I can't do this anymore. He won't leave. Attached was a photo of a handwritten note Mason had left on her counter. If you kick me out, you're no better than Shirley. Don't betray me too. I stared at the message, my chest tight. Jade had stepped into my shoes, and she was finally realizing how heavy they were. My reply was short. You let him in. Only you can make him leave. It was blunt, maybe cruel, but it was the truth. Because Mason wasn't just my problem anymore. He was everyone's problem. And little by little, everyone around him was beginning to understand what it felt like to be drained dry by a man who called dependency love. Mason always believed he was one post away from fame. One perfectly lit video, one viral hashtag, and the world would finally see him as he saw himself a star. But stars burn out, and Mason's light was already flickering. The first cracks showed in his content. He tried to carry on as if nothing had changed, filming Get Ready With Me, reels in Jade's apartment claiming he was embracing minimalism when really he had nothing new to show. His followers noticed. Same outfit again. Didn't you wear that last week, bro? You filming in your roommate's bathroom? This is sad. Where's your girlfriend who used to buy you stuff? I shouldn't have cared, but I watched anyway, sipping wine as I scrolled through the comments. Each one felt like a little truth-telling dagger, the internet holding him accountable in ways I never could. Within 2 weeks, his numbers began to plummet. Engagement down, likes cut in half. Mason panicked, posting more often, more desperately rambling lives, half-baked rants about toxic people and unsupportive partners. The more he flailed, the clearer it became the brand was dead. And Jade, she was done. She messaged me one night, her words clipped furious. He hasn't paid a cent of rent. He eats everything. He used my credit card without asking. I'm filing to get him out. Attached was a photo of a note she'd taped to their fridge. You have until Sunday to leave, or your stuff is on the curb. The handwriting was shaky, but firm. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because that note was a mirror of the one I'd written in my head 100 times, but never had the courage to deliver. Mason didn't take it well. He flooded her phone with the same kind of messages he once sent me. Threats, apologies, guilt trips. He even tried to seduce her according to her next DM. He said if I took care of him, he'd stay. When I said no, he called me uptight and frigid. Surely he's disgusting. I stared at her words, bile rising in my throat. It was like watching a rerun of my own relationship, but this time from the audience instead of the stage. Sunday came, and Jade followed through. Mason's belongings, what little he had left, were dumped in trash bags by the curb. I half expected him to come knocking on my door again, but instead it was Donna who called. Shirley, she said, her voice tight. I went to get him today. He's here now. My chest tightened. At your house. Yes, he's not happy about it, but he doesn't have anywhere else. I could hear him in the background muttering angrily. Donna lowered her voice. I told him the terms. He stays here, he works. Real job, regular hours, regular paycheck. I've already spoken to my friend at the dental office. She'll take him as a receptionist. If he refuses, he's on the street. I blinked, stunned. Donna, the same woman who used to defend him at every turn, was finally drawing a line. And he agreed, I asked. He didn't have a choice, she said grimly. He cried, screamed, threw a tantrum. But eventually, he put on the scrubs. For a moment, I pictured it. Mason, once so obsessed with appearances, standing behind a counter in pale blue scrubs, checking in patients, filing forms, handing out clipboards. The thought almost made me laugh. But it wasn't funny. Not really. It was sad. Pathetic. A boy who wanted to be worshipped, reduced to exactly what he'd spent years sneering at an ordinary man doing ordinary work. And yet there was a strange justice in it. That night, Jade sent me one last message. He's gone. I can finally breathe. I'm sorry for everything. I believed him when he said you were the problem. I see now you weren't. You were just his last victim before me. I stared at her words, my throat tight. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I felt tired. Tired because Mason hadn't changed. He hadn't grown. He'd simply run out of places to hide. And though Donna had dragged him home and forced him into work, I knew deep in my bones that Mason wasn't finished. He never was. Because men like him don't just disappear. They linger like smoke after a fire, choking you long after the flames are gone. But for now, at least the world had stopped revolving around Mason. His stage had been stripped, his spotlight dimmed. And me. For the first time in years, I had a chance to step back into my own life. A chance I wasn't going to waste. 2 months passed. That was all it took for Mason's empire of smoke and mirrors to completely collapse. I didn't go looking for updates, honestly. I wanted nothing more than to forget him. but the news trickled in anyway through mutual friends, through Jade, through Donna herself. Mason was working full-time as a receptionist at Donna's friend's dental office. He wore pale blue scrubs every day, clocked in at 9, clocked out at 5. Donna sent me a photo once unprompted. He was slouched behind the counter, dark circles under his eyes, forcing a fake smile while handing a clipboard to some bored teenager. The caption read, "He hates it, but he needs it." For once, Donna wasn't making excuses. She charged him rent market rate. She took half his paycheck. He cried, she said, sometimes for hours, but she didn't waver. His Instagram private now. 47 followers, all high school friends and a few bots. The last post before he locked it down was some grainy mirror selfie captioned, "New chapter. Hustle mode." The comments were brutal. Receptionist era bro went from boss life to booking appointments. LMAO, humbled. It was cruel, but it was also karma. Meanwhile, I was thriving in ways I hadn't even realized I'd been starving for. The $1, $800 a month I once funneled into Mason's lifestyle now went toward myself, toward aggressively paying down the debt he'd left me, toward rebuilding my credit toward a savings account that actually had my name on it. Within 2 months, my credit score jumped 40 points. Within a year, I'd be debt-free. But it wasn't just the numbers. It was me. I started going back to the climbing gym regularly, the one I'd let slip when Mason always needed me home. That's where I met James. He wasn't flashy. He didn't flood social media with selfies. He didn't beg for validation with likes. He was steady an engineer who showed up on time, who paid his own bills, who had calluses on his hands and laughed easily. The first night we grabbed dinner after climbing, he insisted on splitting the check. "It's only fair," he said with a grin. That one simple act, so normal, so adult, nearly made me cry at the table. When I told him about Mason, about the credit cards and the decline at Walmart, about the TikTok smear campaign, he didn't judge. He just listened. And then with a crooked smile, he asked if I had receipts. We spent a whole evening scrolling through old statements together, laughing at the absurdity. $400 Sephora investments, $200 networking brunches, $300 for a ring light he used twice. The grand total, $31,000 in 2 years. Shirley James said, shaking his head, "You weren't his girlfriend, you were his sponsor." I laughed so hard my stomach hurt, but it was the truth. The funny thing about truth is once you face it, it stops haunting you. That didn't stop Mason from trying, though. A month into dating James, I got a text from a new number. "Shirley, I've had time to think. I know I made mistakes. I've grown. I miss us. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back 2 words. "Who's this?" There was a pause. Then "Stop. You know who this is." "No, I wrote, I don't." "Mason, it's Mason. Please don't play games. I'm trying to apologize." I breathed out slowly, then typed, "Don't contact me again," and blocked him. His last attempt wasn't even direct. He had Brian reach out saying Mason was sorry, that he'd pay me back someday, that he deserved another chance. Pay me back with what I asked flatly. Brian hesitated. He's making $18 an hour now. It might take a few years, but I laughed. 3 years if he gave me every single paycheck. Tell him to keep it. "You're being petty," Brian accused. "No," I said, "I'm being practical. And for once, I'm being free." I lost some mutual friends through it all. The ones who bought into Mason's narrative, who whispered financial abuse without ever seeing the receipts. But I kept the ones who mattered, the ones who knew the truth. Quality over quantity. Mason, meanwhile, tried for a comeback. He started a new Instagram debt-free journey. His first post was a blurry photo of him in scrubs captioned, "Taking control," sharing my financial wisdom. It got 12 likes. 3 comments, all from Donna's friends telling him to stay focused at work, sweetie. The audacity was almost impressive. And me, I didn't need audacity anymore. I had peace. I had laughter. I had James. One night, lying beside him after a climbing session, sweaty and happy and unburdened, I whispered, "Do you think people ever really change?" He thought for a long moment. "Some do," he said finally, "but only if they want to. And Mason." He smirked. "Mason doesn't want to change. He wants to be saved." The words sank deep, because it wasn't it. Mason would never stop looking for saviors. But I wasn't one anymore. I was Shirley Winslow, 27, debt-free in progress. Finally learning that love wasn't about carrying someone, it was about walking side by side. And as I drifted into sleep, James's steady breath beside me, I realized something. Mason had wanted space to figure things out, and he had. He figured out that without me, without my money, without my devotion, he was just another man with bills and a mother who charged him rent. And I figured out I was never